Hi, I'm Dave Epstein. Welcome to this edition of Growing Wisdom, and today we're talking about pickling. What I want to talk about in this video are some of the things that I use in my pickling. Now, a couple of different ways you can pickle. You can do lacto-fermenting, which does not use any vinegar. It's basically just a brine solution with salt, and go read about that. And I also do that, so some of my pickles are lacto-fermented. But then there's also the vinegar pickles. Quick pickles. You can put those in the refrigerator. They're good in a few hours in some cases, depending on how you want them. And some of the things that I use in those pickles really give it a different taste. You can also pickle things like, so here's a jar of them. These are actually cucamelons. So I pickled these this summer. They're still fantastic. I'll just show you before we really get into the video. So they really change the color a little bit. There's some vinegar, some sugar in here. Still very crunchy and absolutely delicious. Let's talk about some of the ingredients. I set up a little display here with some things. So obviously white vinegar, very popular to make your pickles. I'm adding a little bit of sugar. Don't add too much. It gets too syrupy and too sweet, but you can add a couple of tablespoons of sugar to some of your solutions, obviously depending on how much solution you're making. Most recipes will call for 50% water to 50% vinegar. Don't add too much vinegar. It'll just be too tough to take. A little bit of salt's always good. And here's the key that I think is just changing the way I'm making these things. So I have apple cider vinegar, very popular, but then we've got coconut vinegar, and I've got this champagne citrus vinegar, and I found this maple vinegar. And by adding these different types of vinegar into my solutions, it is really making for a wonderful tasting pickle that's unique and different. Now, you can make them a little sweeter by adding a little more sugar. You can add some citrus, perhaps a little lime or even lemon. Obviously, I love adding dill, so I'm growing this in the house during the year. Here's some of my pickles that I've already finished, and we can add some hot peppers if you want to. Just throw that in the little jar. Also some fresh garlic. So here's another jar in here with some pickles, and we've got some daikon radishes in there. We pickled some beets, which is why this looks that color. I also threw in some cabbage in there as well. And the other thing I can do is, let's just say that I really love the solution. I could take something like a cucumber, slice it up, and put it right in there. It would take a little while, obviously, to become pickled, and you sort of have to remember what you put in. But I kind of reuse the solutions a little bit for a while. No problems at all. Bay leaves work really well in your pickles. So you might be thinking, well, you're not giving me a recipe. I'm purposely not giving you a recipe. I don't want to give you a recipe. There's plenty of recipes out there. I'm really saying, hey, play with these things. Play with the sugar, how much you put in. Play with the different types of vinegar. That will really change how the pickles taste. And obviously, you know, what you put in there. So look at these daikon radishes. They're fantastic, and they're going to be delicious. But look, there's a green tomato and a cucamelon in there. So don't be afraid to kind of experiment, to put different things in when you're making your solution. Try them after a few days, try them after a month. Generally, after a few months, things will start to get mushy, but some of these things are still really crunchy, and I did pickle these probably about 8 to 10 weeks ago. So hopefully this helps really get your creative juices going. And, you know, as a side note, this dill is being grown underneath lights downstairs in the basement, and it's actually starting to flower. And I'm doing this so that if I want to make some pickles during the course of the winter, I can do that with some of my own fresh dill. So there you have it, a little bit of information about pickling, some of the things that I like. Again, there's a ton of recipes out there online for you to sort of search through, but I think that adding the sugar in just a little bit really can change the way that the pickles taste, and it gives it that sweet taste. And if you are adding in some of those hot peppers or garlic, it's really going to be special. For Growing Wisdom, I'm Dave Epstein.